The main character in the story, his name happens to be
A-L-L-A-N?
Now, Alan is one of these guys who he's a real thinker. He just really thinks about things, mulls them over, and just thinks about things. Unlike some other people who have a tendency to just, jump. So, what was he thinking about in 1997? He was thinking about the fact that there were going to be a lot of baby boomers, and the oldest of the baby boomers were turning 50, that year. And what was going to happen? There were going to be a lot of issues around this. And one of the issues he was wondering about is he was kind of wondering about what was going to happen with people working. There were going to be a lot of us, or we're going to be able to continue working, whatever. Oops. He was hearing people talk about being retired, but they were still working. And he's like, what is all this about? So he got very interested in this subject. And he heard about a place at UMass called the Gerontology Institute. So he went down to it and he talked to some people who thought this was a really interesting place. Well, the fellow there that he talked to said, we have a part-time PhD program. Now this is somebody who had a few degrees already and really had no intention at this point to go back to school. Well, he came home and he told me about this program, and I'm like, well, I was telling you that I thought you needed an extracurricular activity, but I had something like the Lions Club. So he said, well, I want to just go talk to him. I'm like, yeah, I know how this goes. So he went down and he talked to the head of the program at the time, and he heard, he figured it out. The classes started at 4:30. I can do this. Came home, and this time the spouse said, what did she say?
You said I said extracurricular, not extracurricular.
No! The spouse said, if you keep your day job, whatever. Oh, little did she know. So he went to school, he did his classes, he really liked the classes, he was having a good time with that. Then it came time to think about what this dissertation is going to be about. And he did want to do it about this thing called bridge employment, which is basically going from full-time career work to retirement and everything around it. Well, he kind of insisted on running numbers all the time, these statistics and these charts. And his spouse is saying to him, I don't really understand this because we know so many people in this situation. Let's just go interview. And he said, well, that's another kind of reason. That's the kind I do. So a lot of people doing this bridge employment. In fact, there's some people like Jim Staten who's just bridging all over the place. So anyhow, he was doing the dissertation at this point, and like I said, it was really hard. I mean, it went on for a long time, and I think the two things that really kept him going was, number one, Professor Jan Schler, who was his dissertation leader, and just really, he couldn't have done it without you. The other thing is, wouldn't have been able to live with himself. He's that kind of a person that he would not have been able to live with himself if he hadn't finished. And I knew that, and I knew that. So he kept on going. So he finished, and he sent it back and forth to the other readers to make sure that when he got to the oral defense, everything would be okay. So now it's time to get prepared for the oral defense. Now, most people do a PowerPoint. So he was going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and this spouse of his made him practice over. I had it just about memorized because I wanted to be really, really good. So we went. He did a great job. He was very relaxed. The spouse was a total. Right, I was a but he was great. So he gave the presentation, and then we got sent out of the room, and of course it felt like we were out there for hours, and I think it was maybe 15 minutes. Jan comes out, and she says, "You're done. You did it." Say that again. Yes, that was music to our ears. In fact, it was like a symphony to my ears. So, okay, so now he's done, and now he's saying, I'm not going to graduation. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I don't want to do that. I don't know anybody." So I wrote Jan and said, "Okay, what's the deal at UMass? What do they do for graduation?" And she says, "Well, in the morning on May 29th, which happens to be today, you don't want to go to that because that's a really big ceremony and it always rains. Or even sunburn, and we're really glad you didn't go to that." And then they had this other, smaller things afterwards. But she said not much happens there. But what you should go to is called the graduate convocation, which is what we did yesterday, and it was lovely. And they honor the PhD students of that. And Jan got to hood Alan. And I was happy because I got to see him in his interview song. It was great. So it was great. And he had a cheering section. In fact, we made the most of anybody. It was a very sedate crowd. We're like, this is a really sedate crowd. We're going to scream when he goes up there.
I think we embarrassed him just in time.
I don't know. No. It was everybody else in the room who turned around and looked at us.
And actually, you can see for yourself if you want. Just Google, just go on YouTube and Alan M. graduation. Yeah. Alan M. graduation.
Okay, what else was I going to say? Oh, the graduations. And like I said, that was great. We were very proud of him. We are very proud of him. And this is almost the end of my story. There's one other part, because now he thinks that now he's done this, he wants to find some way to use it. So he's working on that. Time for another party. Yeah. So that's the answer.
Stay tuned.